Good evening. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Fans Only Sports Network. I'm Adam Wright with Justin Tucker. So we are officially right back on schedule. I was on vacation. CJ was on vacation. He actually still is. So he'll be back next episode. But we have myself and Tuck here with you tonight. And this is one of my personal favorite episodes. And it's something that I was really looking forward to. And we're just going to be talking about all wide receivers going into the 2022 NFL season. We're going to be going over the most underrated towards the end of the episode. But we're going to start with ranking our top 5 wide receivers going into the 2022 NFL season. I'm really excited. I don't know about you, Tuck, but you ready for this?
Ready as I'll ever be.
Awesome. Man, how about you start us off? Kick us off with our top 5 wide receivers heading into 2022.
Alrighty. So my number 5 guy is Deebo Samuels, wide receiver from the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I know he's a little bit unhappy in this situation, but I believe at this point in time, I don't think they want to move him. So I think he's just stuck where he is. If he's stuck where he is and he has to play that position, I believe from a wide receiver standpoint, he's still a perfect fit for that team. Outside of what he can do in the run game, he still can give you 1,400 yards in just receiving, and still, I believe, 8 touchdowns. No, 6. And so when I think about what Deebo Samuels can do just in the passing game, I think he's more than capable of being a top 5 player. Top 5 wide receiver, not just a wide receiver. I think going forward, I think he'll continue to improve on his production in that San Francisco 49ers offense.
I like that pick. I like him. He's a very talented wide receiver who, even before this season, was putting up solid numbers. The problem with me with putting him in my top 5, and he's not in there, spoiler alert, is just because this is his first season where he really jumped out, and he did it being a hybrid, which is great. He practically created a new position. But the problem is that he doesn't want to be used that way anymore. So when he goes into these future seasons playing that way, he may not be as invested. And eventually, whatever team he's on is going to start listening to him and using him how he wants to be used. And at that point, he was borderline wide receiver 2 material. But I still really like the player. What's that?
He's still a 1,400-yard receiver. Let's just say let's just say they forget the running thing. He still put up over 1,400 yards as a receiver. So it's not like he's putting up pedestrian numbers as a receiver. He's still putting up numbers. It's just he could do extra with it. So even if you want to take that away, I still think he could put up 1,200 yards consistently.
Yeah, just a lot of it was yards after catch, and a lot of 20-yard darts over the middle, which is really good. I'm not trying to trash on the player. I'm just explaining why he wouldn't make my best of the best wide receivers going into next year. That's all.
Is that his fault, or is that just how he's schematically used? I can't hold it against him if that's all he's asked to do. I wouldn't hold it against DK if all he's asked to do is do flies, 10-yard ends, and slants. I can't hold it against him, and the occasional post.
I'm not holding it against him, but like the way he's used is how he's best used, and he doesn't want to be used that way. So like if you want to be consistently considered one of the best wide receivers in the game, you got to be used the way that works best for you. That might be a lot more work for you, but I mean anything worth doing is a lot of work.
I think he just wants to be considered just a receiver right now. I don't blame him for feeling that way.
I agree. I hope he can play. I hope he can still play at that level as just a wide receiver, and we'll see. But do you think a lot of it had to do with the fact? So he got 1,400 yards, but they also had to respect the fact that he could also run the ball. So it kept defenses guessing.
Fair, but still, I don't hold it against him for being a wide open receiver and getting the yards he was getting, regardless of the system.
He is getting wide open, which is good for him. It's good for him. He's a good receiver. I'm not trashing on him. If we were to do our top 10s like we did last offseason, he'd probably make my 6 or 7. But I can't. We're doing 5, so I just can't do that. And that being said, my number 5 is Tyreek Hill. And the reason I have Tyreek Hill, so last year I had Tyreek Hill, and I was very hesitant on putting him in my top 5 because he just changed teams, and and let's face it, it's a big downgrade from Patrick Mahomes to Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh,
and he's probably still going to put up solid numbers, and Tua could wind up being able to play, but it probably won't be at the level that he was. I believe I had him at 1 or 2, or I think I had Devontae Adams number 1, and then I had Tyreek Hill 1, 2 or 3. I'll have to go back and look at that episode again, but but regardless, I can't put him in my top 3. He may still put up good numbers, but another thing to add on to that is, yes, during his Kansas City days, he did have Travis Kelce as competition for targets, but he was at least a tight end, so it was a different position. Mm-hmm. Now he has not only Mike Gesicki, which is it's something, but the real problem is Jalen Waddle. They have the same exact play style, and they're both wide receiver. They're both what?
You make Mike Gesicki sound like a scrub. You're like,
he's not a scrub. He's something.
He's something.
He's not a top 5. He's not a top 5 tight end. I don't think he made any of our top 5.
But you make him sound like he can't play or anything.
He's no Kyle Pitts.
Oh God, you're right. He isn't, but still.
Let's get back to Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. I really like Tyreek Hill. I think he's going to still have a big year, but it's not going to be top 3 caliber like we have in years past. That's all. But would you care to give me your number 4?
My number 4 would be, as much as I hate doing this, I can't ignore the season he had. Jamar Chase. I can't stand his guts, but I can't stand his guts because he's so good. He is so talented, immensely talented, especially when he has the ball in his hands. Because once he has the ball in his hands, watch out, because he can go from 0 to 60 just like that. And as soon as you know it, he'll score a touchdown. I remember first seeing it when he scored that 88-yard touchdown against the Ravens, and he had 201 yards on us that game. That one was a sore subject to think about, but he had one amazing season. Props off to him. He had, I believe, 13 touchdowns and over 1,500 yards.
I think it was around that area. Yeah, 14 to 1,500 yards.
1,455 and 13 touchdowns. So still statistically amazing. I think the best rookie season of all time, considering yards and touchdowns. Well, not touchdowns. Randy Moss had 16, but still a phenomenal rookie season for the ages, and helped lead his team to the Super Bowl. So I believe he'll be able to build on that with and I can't believe I'm saying this, Joe Shiesty, and be able to carry that team to the playoffs. But that's as further as they're going, because they ain't getting past the Ravens. I ain't going for none of that. My team's actually healthy this year. So hopefully he can stay healthy and continue his amazing career thus far.
Joey Burrow, my boy, and Jamar Chase as well. Those two were unbelievable. And I got to say, it's funny to watch you just seem in pain talking like positively about your division rivals as a Ravens fan. You do it with the Cleveland Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cincinnati Bengals, especially in the past calendar year, since they've had a pretty good year so far.
I had no problems with them until this year when they started to whoop on us and start talking trash about it. Like, we're injured. Like, you're beating up an IR team. Like,
yeah, the funniest part about that one game that they just completely destroyed. So they beat them twice. They beat the Ravens twice in that season. The second time it was really kind of just paper numbers, if that makes any sense. Like, they were trashing on a secondary, which was all backups at that point.
And we were losing backups.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, but I want to get back on track. My number 4 is also Jamar Chase. The only thing I have to add to what you said, because I agree with just about everything, is the only thing that's holding him back from being in the top 2 or 3 is number one, experience, which is you can't hold against him. Number two, he only had 79 receptions. So he was very reliant on the big chunk yardage plays. And I'd like to see him be able to do everything, do all the intermediate routes and the deep routes and yards after catch. I want him to be able to do everything, to be able to be that number one best wide receiver ever. That's something that Justin Jefferson had to figure out from year one into year two, and he did it. And now he's going to be pretty high on my rankings. So Jamar Chase, he's bound to get up there in the rankings, but for now he is number 4.
Yeah, I think he'll take another step. Hopefully he'll have that sophomore slump against us, but everybody else he does well against. But congratulations to Jamar Chase. He deserved it. My number 3, controversially, it's Justin Jefferson.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to put him number 3 because when you actually look down the list, he actually put up phenomenal stats. It's just the team around him didn't do so well. So I think that's the only thing I can hold against him. But he had over 1,600 yards and 10 touchdowns, which is still phenomenal. It's just it didn't show up in the win column as much as you would like it to. So I believe Justin Jefferson is, without a shadow of a doubt, the best wide receiver in Minnesota right now. I think he might be the best. Actually, he is the best receiver in the NFC North. And he is the second best receiver in the NFC. Yeah, Justin Jefferson's phenomenal. Came off a phenomenal rookie season and added on to that and went from 1,402 yards to 1,600 yards. So congratulations to Justin Jefferson. And hopefully they can make the playoffs because they need to at this point. They can't keep wasting away years of Justin Jefferson.
All right. That's respectable. And I have Justin Jefferson somewhere up here as well, but I'm going to go to my number 3, who is, and don't kill me for this one because he had a badass year, but Cooper Kupp. And the reason I have Cooper Kupp number 3 and not at number 1, because he did have a number 1 caliber year, is that this was like his first year where he really came out as that guy, that number 1 receiver in all of football. And he had an incredible year. Just the only reason, and I might have him if he replicates a year like that, and it was in the same year where he upgraded at quarterback. If he replicates this kind of season next year, I'll have him number 1. But for now, he's still number 3. I still have the 2 guys ahead of him just because they're more consistent. They're still young, and they're also going to be they're going to have good years. So Cooper Kupp, great year, dude. You're still number 3, but only because it was your first year really coming out like that. But I really liked Cooper Kupp this year, and I'm going to continue to like him.
I can't have this. No. Cooper Kupp, number 3. The Super Bowl MVP is your number 3.
Yeah, it's going into next year. If we're looking at what happened last year, he's number 1. But this was his only year. He was still very good in those years. So last year let's look at last year, 974 yards, pretty good. 2019, 1,100 yards, pretty good. 2018, 566, but yeah, sat out half the year. 869 his rookie year. So he's been really good. Just I've never had him as I barely even had him top 10. So for him to jump up from there to number 3 overall, that's pretty good. And especially going into next season. So he needs to prove that this past year wasn't a fluke and he's just not going to disappear forever. And also, I don't want him getting hurt from the workload he's getting. If he gets hurt, the best ability is availability. It sucks if you get hurt, and I hate to see that happen. But when you're used this much, then this happens all the time with running backs. Workhorse running backs always get hurt after that one big year that they have. Fantasy guys love them because they look at it and then they become the number 1.
I had him on fantasy. I had Cooper Kupp on fantasy.
Yeah, I think you beat me a couple times because of him. But and that's certainly not the reason why I have him number 3. But you look at those running backs, and they're the number 1 overall pick after that big year. Then they get hurt a few weeks in. I hope that doesn't happen with Cooper Kupp, and I think he's going to have a great year this year. But he needs to prove, I said, he needs to prove that it's not a fluke. These other guys ahead of him I pretty much know that they are not flukes at this point.
All right. You told me Justin Jefferson is ahead of him on this list. How can you tell me that Justin Jefferson is ahead of Cooper Kupp based on the year that he's had, and he's only had 2 years?
I'll tell you once I get to him.
Cooper Kupp has been available for multiple years. I think outside of 2018, he was injured, so he couldn't perform. 2019, 1,100 yards. 2020, he had 974, but Jared Goff got injured and hurt his finger, so he couldn't perform. And they had a backup to perform, and it wasn't no. And then this upcoming year, he puts up the numbers he does, and you don't think he's either top 2? I can't put, as much as I value Justin Jefferson going forward, I can't put him over Cooper Kupp. I just can't.
Yeah, because I just can't. But I just can't put him like it's only been 1 year. And I'm not doubting that he can't do it next year, but he has to prove it first. And he's had Jared Goff. He had while Jared Goff was having his best years, and he was putting up solid numbers. I just can't put him now. I can't put him at number 1 or 2 if he's only had 1 good year. Excuse me, 1 great year. This was a record-breaking year for him, and it was incredible.
I don't see anybody else putting up the numbers he did yet. You don't say anybody's ready until they actually do it. I can't hold that against him just because he put up the numbers and you didn't think it was possible. Again, he put up the numbers. He continued to put up the numbers in the postseason, and he did it on the biggest stage and helped clutch the win for his team.
He did.
As much as I hope,
there's still a chance that was a one-hit wonder. It's not like he's worked with a scrub at quarterback. I mean, as much as people trash on Jared Goff now, he's still a pretty solid quarterback. He's good enough. And with Cooper Kupp, he was still putting up very good numbers. And those numbers went up, and they're bound to still go up. But are we really going to expect that he replicates a season like this? I hope so.
I wouldn't say replicate a season like this, but I could see him putting up 1,700 yards. I could see that. Based upon the type of quarterback he has, the amount of trust he has with his quarterback, and the scheme that he's in. Yes, I could see that.
He might play at that pace, but there's a couple of obstacles that would be in the way. Number 1, a lot of teams are going to start game planning for him and focusing on him, and he's going to get double teamed. Number 2, when you get that kind of workload, there's a bigger chance that you're going to eventually get hurt. So he might end up on that pace, but I'm not sure if he can actually continue it. So, and on top of that, he's yet to prove that he's that he can be that type of player consistently, because he hasn't done that over his career. He's been good over his career, but he hasn't been like this over his career. It's the same thing with Deebo Samuel. He had this 1 breakout year. Great. Show me that you can do that again.
I'm not going to hold it against him just because he had a 1 game-changing year, in that you want him to consistently put up record-breaking years. I can't hold that against him.
Well, maybe not record-breaking, but if he can get like 1,500-1,600, then I'll put him number 1. But I can't. He hasn't gone higher than 1,100 in the other years that he's played, and he's been in the league since 2017.
Okay. 2018 was injured. 2019, 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. 2020, injured. Well, not injured. He just lost a chunk of time due to his quarterback getting injured. And then 2021, this season. It's not like he hasn't been producing. That's my only criteria. That's my only thing. It's not like he hasn't been producing as a wide receiver 1.
How many games were they into the season when Jared Goff hurt his finger?
I want to say 14, 15.
14, 15. So 15 out of 16 games. And out of 15 out of 16 games, he started 14 games out of the 2019 season. he got 1,100 yards. That's a healthy Jared Goff. And then
No,
in 2020,
he did in 2019.
2019,
Jared Goff was healthy in 2019.
In 2019, he got 1,100 yards. There you go. And then in 2020, so Cooper Kupp started 12 games, and he played total in 15 games. So 15 out of the 16 games, Jared Goff was healthy, and he managed 974 yards.
Okay, so if I add on one more, he could easily match his 2019.
Right, match 2019, but not 2022.
That's still
2021.
That's still a wide receiver 1 year.
It's a wide receiver 1 year, but is it wide receiver like top 2, 3 in the league? Well, I have him number 3, but top 2, I just don't think that it's that. And he just needs to prove that. He's shown a solid rapport with Matthew Stafford, and let's see if it continues. If it continues, then I'm not saying that I'm doubting that he can be the number 1 receiver in all of football. He just proved that last year, but he only did it for 1 year. I just want to see him prove that it's not a one-hit wonder. That's all. But can we move on to our number 2s?
Yeah, we can move on. My number 2 is Davante Adams. Now, the reason he's not number 1 is because he's moving over into a different system, and I'm not sure how he'll adjust to it. I understand that he does have rapport with Derek Carr, but I still need to see it on the field in order to feel secure about it. Still, though, in his previous season, he had over 1,500 yards and double-digit touchdowns. So that's still a great top 3 season in the leagues. So I still think he can put up those numbers. I'm just not sure if they're going to be as great as they were with Aaron Rodgers. But still, Derek Carr is not a bad quarterback. He's not Aaron Rodgers, so left to be desired. And he has to share snaps with Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. So we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, my number 2 is also Davante Adams. He's a proven commodity and this has nothing to do the fact that he has route running skills to be able to get out open so consistently, even when he's double teamed, has nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr at quarterback. So he's going to be able to get open, and Derek Carr just has to get him the ball. And those two just so happen to be teammates in college, and apparently they were best friends. So to look at it that way, he's still going to put up numbers. And he's a wide receiver who, once he took over that wide receiver 1 role, he has never given it back yet. And he did have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, so his numbers are bound to dip a little bit. And there's more weapons in there. And I believe I had Davante Adams number 1 last year. He only drops to number 2 because he's changing teams and he's going to have to figure out a new system. However, he's good enough so that he doesn't really need that good of quarterback play, because he gets open independent of Aaron Rodgers being just that good at throwing the ball, which Aaron Rodgers is good at throwing the ball. But there's also Davante Adams, who's incredibly great at getting open. So it took the two of them for Davante to be the best wide receiver in the game. And I think that's going to continue next year. I have him number 2.
Yeah, I agree. So that just leaves our number 1. And my number 1,
Cooper Kupp. Yeah, Cooper Kupp.
You're damn right it is. You're damn right it's Cooper Kupp.
Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me. Let's hear it.
I don't want to get into this for too long because we just had a discussion about where we rank Cooper Kupp. But again, Cooper Kupp had a phenomenal season where he was Offensive Player of the Year and helped lead his team to the Super Bowl and led the way and gave his team the Super Bowl win with that clutch touchdown on that bum Eli Apple, that burnt piece of toast Eli Apple. So congratulations to him for winning Super Bowl MVP. Much deserved, well deserved. He had 2 touchdowns in that game. So throughout the whole season, he performed from the beginning of it till the end of it. So he put up 1,947 yards, and forgive me, I don't know how many touchdowns. 16. My bad. Yeah. 16. So he put up double-digit touchdowns, almost broke the NFL record for receiving yards, and helped lead his team to the Super Bowl.
145 receptions too.
That means he's consistently. That means you trust him with the ball.
Getting open.
Yeah, he's getting open and you're giving him the ball. I can't hold it against him because he's getting open.
Oh yeah.
You can say
And
it's a little force feed, but again, Matthew Stafford always does that. So I don't really hold it against him. So
yeah.
I believe he'll continue with this production because of the quarterback that he has, because of the coach that he has, and the players that surround him and the play calling. I believe all those things contribute to him being number one. However, I'm not going to hold it against him and say that if he was in another system, another person would be number one. I think he'll have a phenomenal season this year, and I think he'll more than deserve to be number one.
Yeah, and he very well could. And I'm rooting for him to have that caliber year. And maybe I'll draft him in fantasy this year, and then I'll beat you. How's that sound?
You can draft him in fantasy all you want to. I'll probably try to go get Justin Jefferson.
Funny, isn't that? So my number one is Justin Jefferson. Now, this kid was able to play, and in year one he had 88 receptions, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns. Those are all great numbers. And then he took it a step further with 108 receptions, 1,600 yards, and 10 touchdowns. And his rapport with Kirk Cousins is only getting better. And it's not like you can double team him, because if you double team him, then you have Adam Thielen over there, who was able to get with Justin Jefferson being double teamed, was able to get 24 touchdowns in the past 2 seasons with Justin Jefferson there. So if you game plan for one guy, the other guy's gonna bite you in the ass as well. So his production will not get eaten into, and you also have Dalvin Cook to throw to. So this kid continues to get better, and his team around him is also still really good. So he's going to be able to put up those numbers consistently, and he's only in his sophomore season, or he's entering his number 3 season. So we could call it, if we're looking at it in high school or college terms, junior season. But boy, the sky is the limit for this kid, and I think he's only going to get better. And I have him as my number 1. He's a slam dunk guy who's going to get at least 1,400 yards for me, and that's why I have him number 1, Mr. Reliable, and I know he's going to put up statistics.
Mm-hmm.
And he's proven to be able to do it his first 2 years in the league. So that's why I have Justin Jefferson number 1. Does he finish number 1? I don't know. We'll see. But this is going into the season. We're basically making predictions. We're basically saying who's set up the best for next season, and who has proven to be able to put up numbers in the past as well. Justin Jefferson has, and I have him number 1.
I will give you this. He put up those numbers under a defensive-minded head coach. Imagine what he could do with the offensive-minded head coach. I will give you that. But he ain't better than Devontae Adams nor Cooper Kupp. I can't do that. Absolutely not. You're just going off potential at this point, which is fine. He's just not better than those guys right now.
Yeah. So the only reason I had Devontae Adams number 2 is because he changed teams, and I'm questioning how he's going to be able to adjust and how quickly he'll adjust. He's still going to be a great receiver, but how great of a year is he going to have next year? Cooper Kupp, like I said, he was awesome, and he showed a great rapport with Matthew Stafford, who has a history of great rapports with Calvin Johnson. So we'll see how he does it in year 2. Let's see how he does it in year 2. I just want to see him prove that it's not a one-hit wonder. Justin Jefferson, he's going into it's same year. Mm-hmm. It's same situation, same old situation, and he's only getting better. So I just like Justin Jefferson better. He's a slam dunk number 1 for me. And let me also be clear. While I say that Justin Jefferson's my pick, you could also make a case that most of my top 5 could be number 1. You can make a case. But I just think Justin Jefferson has the best chance. That's all.
All right. We'll see. Only time will tell.
Well, so there you have it, guys. Those are our number 1s. My top 5 were Justin Jefferson at 1, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. Those are my top 5. We'll see how that ends up shaking up. Justin Tuck had Cooper Kupp, And then I believe you had, I'm just trying, short-term memory here. You had
5
at
was
number 2,
Debo.
Devontae Adams.
Yep.
You had at number 3, Justin Jefferson. Number 4 was Jamar Chase. I think that's
Yep.
the only pick that you and I agreed on was number 4, Jamar Chase. And
Yep.
Jamar Chase could jump up to that upper echelon if he can just work on those intermediate routes. Him and Justin Jefferson are a lot alike, which is what I like about the two. LSU, wide receiver U. And then at number 5.
Slow your roll there, Buckaroo. They're still Alabama. And Ohio State. And Ohio State. So
kind of. At number 5, I had Tyreek Hill, and you had
Debo
Samuel. 2 respectable lists, and we'll see how it works out. It's practically, when you talk about going into next year, it's practically predictions. So we'll see how it goes. There's going to be some guy who could be a rookie, who could be a borderline wide receiver 1 guy, like the Cooper Kupp type player who just has an elite year, and we have him in our rankings next year. But this is what we have for now, and it's gonna be great. I can't wait. Wait, like, think about it. What if Marquise Brown has a great year with the rapport he has already with Kyler Murray, and we have him number 5?
Okay, that's nice. It doesn't change my mind. I think he'll have a good season with him, specifically because DeAndre Hopkins will be out for 6 weeks, so he'll be one of his main deep threats anyhow. So, yeah, I think he'll have a good season. I think he could easily have over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I think he'll have 1,000 yards and then some. What did he have? Did he have 1,100 or did he just have 1,000 last year?
He had 1,000, I believe, 9 or 19.
Let me.
It started to taper off when Lamar got injured. So.
Yeah, but he was still a favorite target from, I'm forgetting who the next guy. Yeah, 1,008. So 91 receptions, 6 touchdowns. This is a receiver who I think is going to have an even better year this year. A more pass heavy.
Adam, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Jeez, I wonder what happened. How much did you hear?
I heard pass heavy.
Yeah, pass heavy offense in Arizona. Marquise Brown's gonna like that a lot more, and he's going to put up, and especially since he already has a really strong rapport with Kyler Murray. Those two are best buds. They were great during college. Those two. So I'm very excited to see them, but that's just a side thing. But coming up, we are going to talk about the fan box, which we are going to have. We're going to talk about the most underrated wide receivers going in next year. So we talked about the top 5 who we have. So let's look at what you guys had for the most underrated guys. This is going to be an interesting one, and you won't want to miss it. This is the Fumblerooski podcast. Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast. I'm Adam Wright, Justin Tucker with you, and we have reached our Fumblerooski fan box. So we post a question filter on our Instagram every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more. And we will discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. Respond to next week's fan box question to be featured on our show. So the question of the week: who is the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL? So this has been a fun series of fan boxes that we've been doing, because we've been just going over our top 5 at every position. So on those same weeks, we want to find out who you think are the most underrated there. So to give it a little underappreciation for all these receivers, because there's a lot of good ones in the league. And we're going to start out with Grayson Mortimer, who said Keenan Allen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Slayer.
So this guy, when he is healthy, keyword healthy, he puts up the numbers that are pretty much worthy of consideration to be top 5. The problem is he needs to stay healthy. But when he is, oh boy, that kid, he's among the best in the game when he is healthy. But that is the key, isn't it? To stay healthy, because he's had issues with that. And sometimes even when he's on the field, he's not actually 100%. So that's just a little issue with him. So Ian Malern, he had two responses, and one of them, actually both of them are pretty interesting responses. Number one, the first one he had was Gabriel Davis.
Yes.
This guy, man, did you see the game that he had in the divisional round?
Yep. And a loss, but still, what a great game he had.
Him and Josh Allen practically put the team on his back, and he said, we're going to the AFC Championship. Now they didn't go there, but 4 touchdown receptions. 4. And on top of that, 200 yards. And I think, what did he get? Like 10, 12 receptions around there. I was looking at his stats in that game yesterday, but unbelievable game he had.
Solid.
And with the departure of Emmanuel Sanders, he could have a pretty good year. And they also lost Cole Beasley, who they did replace with Jamison Crowder, but Gabriel Davis in year 2, I'm liking that guy. I really do.
Yeah.
And so his second pick was Darnell Mooney.
The problem with him is his quarterback situation. Now I'm happy that they finally have Justin Fields. The reason he was underrated for so long is because of the quarterbacks he had. He had Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles throwing him the ball, and sometimes they would overthrow him. If you look at some of the things he did in Chicago, and you're like, this guy could easily be a 1,000-yard receiver if he just got the ball.
Yeah, his rookie year, he looked really good. And you could see he was getting open. The problem was he was always overthrown or underthrown, or the ball wasn't going his way, and it was just frustrating to watch. And especially since now that Robinson is out the door,
yeah,
now he's going to get more targets, and him and Fields have shown a solid rapport. So Justin Fields just has to come through. Hopefully he doesn't get killed by that offensive line. And that the defense has lost a little bit, which could be a good thing for that offense production-wise, if that makes any sense. Because think about it. The more the opposing team is going to score, the more the offense has to keep up. So they're going to have to pass it a lot more, and that means more yards and receptions and touchdowns for Darnell Mooney. So that could be a good thing from a production standpoint. Obviously, in real life, it sucks because that means you're losing games and you're playing catch up. Players are going to get overworked. Players are going to get hurt. But like from a production standpoint, like putting up numbers, that's going to be good for Mooney. Stephen Parker had 2 picks as well. Number 1 was Tyler Boyd. So Tyler Boyd is arguably one of the best slot receivers in the game.
Yeah.
800 yards while playing behind Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That's incredible. And we've seen what he's been able to do when he's the number 1 receiver. He may not be the best in the game, but underrated is probably that's a textbook defining term for him. It really is. Like, that's him.
Uh-huh.
Talk about underrated. And he's your wide receiver 3. Just goes to show how deep that offense is in Cincinnati. But his other pick was DJ Chark. So DJ Chark, another guy who, now his best football could be ahead of him because he hasn't been healthy and he hasn't had the best quarterback play. Now he has better quarterback play with Jared Goff out there in Detroit, but health is still a concern. And also, he might be behind. He's not going to be the number 1 target like he has in years past. There's still Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is another underrated piece, by the way, but had an incredible year with Jared Goff. And also you have Jamison Williams, who is coming back from an ACL tear. But once he's back and he gets healthy, ooh, now that's a receiver who could ball. And you talked about earlier on the show, Alabama being wide receiver U. You can make a case for it, and Jamison Williams is part of that.
Yep.
And I believe he was in Ohio State as well, right?
Yep.
Or where else was he? Was it Ohio State? Okay.
Yep. So
there you go. So two colleges that you mentioned that are potentially wide receiver U. Then Zachary Stilson, and he loves this pick because he was describing it. DJ Moore, this guy is hecka underrated. Give him a good quarterback, and boy, that would be scary.
First off, hecka.
He did say hecka, so I guess points for the clean language. Jesus does love you. Jesus did love that.
I hate that. Heck of, not heck up, whatever. DJ Moore, I wouldn't say underrated. I think he's rated just fine because he is the number one receiver in Carolina. I think he's put up phenomenal numbers for them, despite the terrible play coming from the quarterbacks. My God, Sam Darnold. Who was that? Who did they have in 2019? I'm forgetting names, but
was it Kyle Allen?
Yes, Kyle Allen.
Yeah.
So he's had incompetent quarterback play after incompetent quarterback play, and he still manages to put up solid seasons as the wide receiver one. So
I think that's what he's trying to say, though.
I think he's a little bit underrated, but I like where he is just fine. I don't have him underrated. I think he's rated just fine.
I think he's kind of underrated just for the fact that, I mean, you said it, the quarterback play's been bad. And that's kind of what he's trying to say here is if he had a legitimate quarterback that could get him the ball more consistently, then boy, that kid will be able to play. Didn't he have 3 straight seasons of at least 1,100 yards? And the year where he didn't, he had like 800 or something. Mm-hmm. So he's been consistently playing well with poor quarterback play. And I'm not sure what Baker Mayfield will be able to bring. The jury's kind of still out on that kid, on Baker Mayfield. But
shake and bake?
Yeah. Our boy Baker Mayfield, who we've had how many guest segments on? Like everybody who we've had as a guest on our show has wanted to talk about Baker Mayfield in the Browns.
But now he's with the Panthers now.
So now he's a Panther.
Now we might have to talk about him again as a Panther.
We might. We'll see how all that goes. But DJ Moore, I do really like. Diego Huertas said Michael Pittman Jr. So it's important to look at this and say his rookie year, he had just over 500 yards. Mm-hmm. And then his sophomore season, 1,100 yards with Carson Wentz as his quarterback. Now his rookie year, he had Phillip Rivers, who was on the last legs of his career. And it was all in a run first offense. And it was a run first offense this past year as well with Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
And he was still able to put up numbers. Now he has Matt Ryan. Could be in for another career year. Maybe 1,300 yards, 1,200 yards, somewhere around there. But Matt Ryan's a good passer.
Yeah, I think he'll have a good season, another good season. I think his rookie season, he was just coming off like a surgery, and that's why he had the numbers he had. The second year with Carson Wentz, he did pretty good despite the circumstances. And this year, I think he'll continue to prove why he deserves to be the wide receiver one in Indianapolis.
Absolutely. I do like Michael Pittman. I always have. And I think he is a legitimate wide receiver one. He just needs better quarterback play. And the offense being run first, it still is going to be with I shouldn't be blanking on this kid's name. Jonathan Taylor being the running back. And they're really deep there as well. They also have Jordan Wilkins, and they have and Nyheim Hines. And they have another guy who they just acquired. So that team is just loaded with running backs. But Michael Pittman will still be able to get his share. We've seen Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen be able to still eat with the run-first offense that Minnesota has had. But, yeah. So Cash Withers, who is a new responder, Cedric Wilson, and he put the star. He put the cute little star emoji there.
He's not a star. He's a Dolphin.
Yeah, but I think he's a this kid's a Cowboys fan who is just happy to see Cedric Wilson succeed, if that makes any sense. I know he's a Dolphin, but and I could be wrong, Cash. So let me know if you're a Dolphins fan, Cowboys fan. But I saw the star, so I thought maybe you were a Cowboys fan. But either way, he's a solid wide receiver 3. Yep. At least he was last year, and he's probably going to continue it. Let's be real. You have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who are going to be leading that team, and Mike Gesicki as well is also, if we're talking about just pass catchers, is also going to be ahead of him. And he's a nice Swiss Army knife. You can use him anywhere. Special teams, as the slot receiver. He's your wide receiver 3. I like him. I do like him.
Yeah, he's just out for what the Dolphins want to do.
Yeah. And so Nick Normand said, and I really like this response, Tyler Lockett, 4 straight productive seasons and 36 touchdowns in that span. And he is racking up. He said productive seasons as in he was putting up yardage, and he is. 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. The one that he didn't. It was just under 1,000 yards, and 36 touchdowns in that span. That is accurate. And and say what you want about DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett's production has been every bit as effective, if not more, than Metcalf. Metcalf had that 1,300-yard season, and he had an 800-yard season. Actually, I think he had 2 800-yard seasons and then a 1,300. Tyler Lockett's been more consistent. He has been more consistent.
Yeah, and he's been more consistent.
And he's been good, and he does deserve more recognition than he gets. We always hear about DK Metcalf. We don't hear about Tyler Lockett as much. So CJ, and usually he's on the show to explain his pick because he is a co-host on the show, and he likes to respond to our fan box as well.
But he's out tonight.
But he is out tonight, like Brian Mucker before him.
Yeah, he's also out.
Exactly. It's kind of funny how Brian Mucker hasn't been a co-host on our show for almost 2 years now, and we're still mentioning his name. He still lives rent-free in our heads.
Yeah,
but
I still like the joke. I can't help
it. Love the man to death. Brian Mucker, the Jets fan, always rambled on about his Jets. But let's stay on topic. And he picked Brandon Cooks, so he really doesn't have to be on the show to explain this one, as this guy has racked up 1,000 yards on every team he's been on, and he's bounced around everywhere.
Yeah,
man, he's managed to. What's that?
He's been passed around a lot.
Yep. And so you can't say that, man.
You're dirty.
You just can't. You're gonna make me lose my focus. So Brandon Cooks, he's how many teams has he played for? About like 4. He started with the Saints. He went
5.
to the Patriots. Then he went to the Rams, and then Texans.
Yeah, 4.
So that's 4 teams. And the only years where he's had under 1,000 yards was one year he was smothered with concussions, and I thought his career was over at that point. Once you start getting concussed a lot, that's a tough spot to be in. Just ask Wes Welker. And I'm glad to see that he's okay, and he's a wide receivers coach. Tells me that his brain is still functioning at a high level, especially since he's coaching Deebo Samuel. Yeah. So it's going well for him. And so good to see Wes Welker in good health. But I thought his career was over at that point, and then he was able to bounce back with the Texans so far. And his other year was his rookie year. So obviously, when you're a rookie, you're gonna get a lot of years with wide receivers in their rookie year where they're just okay, and then they make that jump in year 2, and that's what Brandon Cooks did. Very consistent wide receiver, and I'm glad to see that he's still playing at a high level. And so Derek Hool said Jamison Crowder. So the most notable thing about Jamison Crowder is that he played with the Redskins when they were named the Redskins. Don't cancel me. That's what they were called when he was on the team. And then he went to the Jets, and both teams at the time, and Jets still are, mediocre, and he was still able to put up solid numbers as a slot receiver. And now he's going on to a solid team, and he's replacing Cole Beasley as the as the slot receiver. So I think he'll replace Cole Beasley fairly well. He's always he's been okay.
Yeah, he's just asked to be a slot receiver. All I'm gonna say is this: for this week, you will not hear any Jets slander out of me. It's not happening. I won't do it.
What do you mean by Jets slander?
Anybody talking down on the Jets, it won't come from me.
They also have a dog at quarterback now.
They got a dog at quarterback, yes, sir.
So Boy's got more wins off the field than he does on it.
Yes, he does. Oh my God, I can't believe what I saw. But no, I think Jameson Crowder will be perfect for that team for what they're going to ask of him. Just be a slot receiver, be a possession receiver, and move the chains on third down, which is fine. That's what Cole Beasley was doing for them anyhow. I think he's better than Cole Beasley, if he can stay healthy, that is.
Yep. So Tyson Tate said, when healthy, Adam Thielen. I talked about him earlier on in the show, and he's the wide receiver where if you try to double team Justin Jefferson or even do it successfully, you're going to get burned by Adam Thielen because he has 24 touchdowns in the span that Justin Jefferson has been in the league. So he's the guy who, when he's healthy, he's been very, very good. Very good receiver, solid wide receiver too. And before Justin Jefferson came into town, he was borderline wide receiver 1 along with Stephon Diggs, who was clearly a fishy out of water because he needed to get traded to a team that was more pass heavy. Clearly that was the case because now he's in the upper echelon of wide receivers. I believe I had Diggs in my top 5 last year, but he was still good, but he didn't have the year that he had the season prior where he was just on fire. Here's another one, and it pisses me off.
Here we go.
Robert Shelley,
yes,
said N'Keal Harry. We have our feelings about N'Keal Harry.
Yeah,
Robert, you were a troll, and you can go screw yourself. And if we weren't on air I would be, there would be a lot different adjectives. I'll say that much.
Oh my God.
N'Keal Harry. This is obviously a troll move. This is a hate crime. I don't know if
it's a troll move. It's Robert. He might actually like N'Keal and thinks he's not being used properly, which is what N'Keal felt like when he wanted to get traded.
He might actually think that. You don't know what's going on in Robert's head, as we can tell in the time that we've known this kid. For those of you who don't know Robert, he has been on our show countless amounts of times. And if you guys are Pesky Pole podcast listeners as well, then you guys know Robert all too well. And this is an act of treason. I am having a very bad day. This is one of the worst days I've had in a very long time. Pulling out channeling my inner Stephen A. Smith. God, this freaking kid. This guy.
Are you talking about Robert or N'Keal?
Both. Both. BOAF. Both. Screw it.
All right, then how do you feel about N'Keal Harry? Why do you not think he's underrated?
As CJ likes to say, he's the biggest threat to world peace.
He is not that bad.
We need CJ on the show to back me up, but he is that bad. That fella is not only never open, but even with not getting open and getting targets, he's still finding ways to help the team lose.
Oh my!
You remember that one time they put him to return punts for no reason whatsoever. Who the hell knows why? The one time they put him in, he muffed a punt. Freaking muffed it. And nearly lost the Patriots that one game against the Bills. God.
You guys didn't. Oh my God.
Screw that guy.
I can't believe you right now. I can't. First off, what about that game against Atlanta? Oh no, wait. No, not Atlanta. I want to say the Colts.
The Colts?
I think
he lose that game.
I think he had like a 4th down conversion or something. Like he had a big play or something.
Good for him. They still lost the game.
You guys really don't like this guy.
We don't like him. If you understand the pain of Patriots fans having to watch this kid who was drafted number 32 overall, a first round pick who had
Just
so much hype
early
and be
second
not
round.
only a bust, but harm the team more than help, then and just the fact that they can't even find a trade partner for this guy.
I don't think that's the reason it hurts. I think the receivers that went after him, the McLaurens, the Samuels, the AJ Browns,
Stop
the
it.
Metcalfs,
Stop it. Stop it.
hurt you the
Stop it.
most.
Debo Samuel, I think, in that same draft, or was it the year after that?
The same draft.
Same draft, exactly. They could have had DK Metcalf. That's who I wanted them to draft. When he lasted number 32, it was, and the only reason he fell that far is because of the it's the three cone drill.
Yes.
The NFL Combine's a joke. I'm sorry, it's a joke. All it does is there's players who should be number one picks who wind up falling in drafts. Yeah. And players who have no business being drafted as high as they are, Trayvon Walker, being drafted so early.
Okay. We don't know what Trayvon Walker will be, so I think it might be a little too early to call him not deserving of the number one overall pick. We'll see. I understand based on his college production, that has more to do with the way Georgia was schemed than probably himself. Let's give him a break until we see his rookie year.
Well, sure. I'm not saying that he's going to be a bad player. I just think like he was going to be a late first round pick. So he could be a productive player, but that doesn't change the fact that he should not have gone number one overall. He just shouldn't have. Aiden Hutchinson was more deserving of it than him. Kayvon Thibodeau is more deserving of it than him.
Hey, listen. All I'm going to say is this. N'Keal Harry is your wide receiver, and you guys are going to keep him until you guys can't keep him anymore. I don't understand why you guys just don't cut him, but hey.
I don't either.
Bill believes
in Bill we trust, buddy. In Bill we trust, baby. And if he turns into the Super Bowl MVP, I don't know what I'll do.
If all of a sudden he just has a breakout year and has 1,500 yards,
if he winds up in our top 5 next year, then I will purposely keep him out. I will purposefully keep him out. I'm kidding. I have to be honest and unbiased, and it's funny how I'm biased against a player who's on the team I'm a fan of. I don't know. It's getting to the point where it's just funny being against N'Keal Harry. And it's also funny that CJ keeps on calling him the greatest threat to world peace.
Unbelievable.
All right. Any other thoughts before we end the show here tonight?
Yeah. Zach Wilson got that dog in him. Yes, sir. And go Orioles.
Not only does he have more wins off the field than he has on the field, you can make a case that he has more touchdowns off the field than he does on the field.
Jeez. Yo broke with that ex-girl because he was too busy banging his mom's best friend. That is phenomenal stuff. Training camp vibes will be a thing for the Jets.
Now look, he's still the fact that he did that is still pretty scummy. It's like we all think it's funny and we give him credit, but also in real life he belongs to the streets. All of them do. His girlfriend. Let's say his ex-girlfriend, his mom's best friend, his best friend who is now dating his ex-girlfriend. All of them suck. And we don't know anything about his mom. Maybe something's going on there. Who the hell knows?
Hey, leave Mama Wilson out of this, please. Let's not go there. Let's play nice.
I'm not holding anything against her. I'm just saying, everybody's been bad in this. So at this rate, everybody could suck. Everyone could belong to the streets.
All right, listen. The only person that we know for sure was sucking was his mom's best friend and his ex-girlfriend. That's the only thing we know. But enough about that.
Say that again.
Anything else, Adam? Do you want to talk about anything else?
Well, one last thing is that Rob Gronkowski on I'm forgetting which podcast it was. He said that he's not coming back even if Tom Brady calls him. So we'll see if he puts his money where his mouth is, because he's retired before. And his best friend in Tom Brady is a player who also retired before and came out of it. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. Maybe he'll be on the Bucs roster by opening day. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll come back in a couple of years. Who the hell knows? But yeah, that's pretty much it. But I think we'll end the show here on that. We'll end on a high note from talking about Zach Wilson, but that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Be sure to tune into us live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:30 on Twitter and Facebook through Fans Only Sports Network. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Over and out.